I know most of you hang out with me here on the channel to get the scoop on budget beauty, but everyone likes to treat themselves once in a while, and a potentially splurge-worthy product landed in my mailbox last week. So today I'm going to be playing with the new Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet palette, let you know is it worth the splurge, as well as some budget-friendly alternatives if you like the look but maybe you don't want to spend the money right now. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. Welcome to my channel where we talk all things budget beauty. If that sounds interesting to you, then become the newest member of the Slashed Squad by hitting subscribe and the bell icon. Now, when you first hear Urban Decay Naked palette, you probably think of neutrals, but the Naked Ultraviolet palette does have a very strong purple theme to it, and I am incredibly happy that they did not just make this a neutral palette with pops of purple. There are actually a significant amount of bold shades. So it's far from boring, but we do have enough neutrals to kind of balance out looks, give you more subtle options as well. The inclusion of the neutrals does make it a little bit more wearable overall. Now, this is not a first impression. This isn't my first time using the palette. I've been dipping into it all week. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on it as I use it, and I'll be doing two different eye looks today, one super bold and bright and one a little bit more subtle so you can see the variety you get with the palette. All right, before I do my two looks, let's do some swatches. First, we have Trippin', which is a satin ivory. Next up is Mind Slip, which is a light peachy matte. Next is Dazed, which is sort of a champagne gold with a heavy pink undertone. Then we have Hacked, which is a matte mauve. VR, my favorite shade in the entire palette. It's a raspberry sparkle with iridescent shimmer. Next we have Lucid, which is a pearl seafoam green. Definitely unexpected in this palette, but a nice pop of something different. Optimized, my second favorite shade in this palette, is a lavender matte, super pigmented. Then we have Warning, which is a pink satin with a purple shift to it. Next is Cyberpunk, which is violet with pink shimmer. Euphoric is gorgeous. It is a purple with a light blue shift. Purple Dust is sort of a blackened purple with iridescent shimmer. And then we have Digital, which really looks like an espresso brown black shade. I'm gonna start my first eye by applying Mind Slip all over my eyelid as a base. This is the lightest matte shade in the palette. It's sort of a light peach. And with a big fluffy blending brush, I'm gonna go into Warning and use that as a transition. This kind of leads me into my first complaint about this palette. It is mostly shimmery, glittery, and shifty. We only have 3 out of 12 shades that are matte. And for the way that I like to do my makeup personally, I do like to have more matte options. I feel like they complete the look, make it a little bit more well-rounded. Next, I'm going into Purple Dust, which is a dark purple with iridescent shimmer. And I'm gonna pack this on the outer corner and inner corner, and we'll kind of do a halo eye look. Now, this shade, I feel like I really need to build up if I'm using a brush. It definitely looks more pigmented when I'm using my finger. I just don't have a lot of control when I do that. And that is a recurring theme with this palette. These shimmery shades and glitter shades just look so much better when you apply them with your fingers. But you can build them up with a brush and it's totally fine. It just takes a little bit of extra effort. Now, this shade being one of the darkest in the palette, I do experience some fallout with the pigment and the shimmer. So keep that in mind when it comes to what order you're doing your makeup in. And just softening up the edge there with a blending brush with a little bit more warning on it. Now, these shadows blend together really nicely, absolutely no muddiness. But I do feel like after blending, I need to darken up some of the areas again, just to maintain the vibrancy. Next, I'm taking Cyberpunk, which is a beautiful violet with pink micro shimmer. I feel like this is kind of the hero shade of the palette. It matches the packaging, and I'm just gonna place that slightly in from where we applied the darker purple. So you're gonna get a really nice gradient going on, and you can see how these shades really just meld in with each other. In the center of my lid, I'm gonna apply one of my favorite shades in the palette. It's called Optimized, and it's a matte lavender. Now, as you can see, the mattes are a little bit powdery in the palette. You do get some kick up to it, but because they're so soft, you can really pick up a lot of pigment. And for a lighter matte shade, this is incredibly pigmented, even when layering over darker shadow. So very impressed with the mattes in this palette. I wish we had more. So I'll go ahead and kind of blend that again, making more of a gradient, and put some on my lower lash line. Now, to finish this eyeshadow look, I want to use VR, which is hands down my favorite shade in the entire palette. Now, this one I am gonna apply with my finger right in the center on top of Optimized. Now, the fallout from this shade is a little bit harder to get off. I do have a lot of iridescent shimmer that really wants to stick to my cheek. I'm adding Trippin' on the brow bone for a subtle highlight. Loving how this eyeshadow look came out. I used almost every single purple in the palette. Now with that said, even the darkest purple sort of translates more mid-toned on my skin. In general, if you just look at this palette as a whole, we do have more light and medium shades than deep ones. And for me, I do appreciate some deeper shades to create dimension, especially in my outer corner. Please tell me I'm not the only one who needs a deep matte shade for their outer corner. So the range of shade tones in this palette, or lack thereof, does make me feel a little bit limited. First finished eye look, I think it's gorgeous. I think these purple shades really help amplify brown eyes. Let's move on to the more neutral eye. Starting again with Mind Slip all over the lid. Now the neutral shades in this palette lean a bit peachy, and they are all what I would consider light shades. Going into Hacked, which is sort of like a soft mauve, and one of the 3 matte shades, that'll be my transition on this side. I'll be using Trippin' again on the brow bone. Now I will say Hacked, even though I used it as a transition shade, I do think that it's deep enough to use in the outer corner depending on your skin tone. I could have probably gotten away with it. But I'm gonna be using Digital in my outer corner. Now they describe this as a black with red shimmer to it, but when I've used it in the past, it really does translate as a satin brown. And again, I'm not the hugest fan of using non-mattes in my outer corner, but this one doesn't come off too reflective, so you can still get definition with it. And I'll blend that into Hacked. Next, I'm gonna go into Dazed, which is sort of a pink champagne shade, and I'll place that all over the lid. I'm gonna use Hacked to blend that into the outer corner. Now I will say, we got Digital to look a little bit more matte, that dark shade, by putting Hacked over it a little bit. Yeah, we were able to get a decent outer corner definition with that, so I'm happy. I hadn't tried that yet. So this is a pretty staple neutral look. I will add just a pop of purple though. Going into Euphoric, which is such a beautiful shifty purple. Talk about iridescent. I'm gonna place this on my inner corner. Just a little unexpected pop right there. And this is a great way to wear color in an environment that may not necessarily support super bright and bold makeup, maybe at work, and just add a little pop in the tear duct. Let's take it up a notch. I'm gonna add the glitter shade VR also, just right on top of that. Right, the side went from neutral to not neutral at all. Finishing up with liner and mascara. Since these are 2 totally different eye looks, I don't feel as bad that my liner is definitely not gonna be even. So as you can see, you have options when it comes to this palette. You don't have to create an all purple look every time. I know there were some people who really wanted an all purple Naked palette and were disappointed in this, but I think there are enough purples to support the ultraviolet theme while also giving us enough neutrals to provide variety and balance. Now with that said, you saw how these worked in action as I was applying them. You saw how some of them had to really be built up to look as vibrant as they do in the pan. And even though they all blended together beautifully, I didn't have any muddiness at all. I did experience the pigmentation suffering slightly as I blended the shades out. As I mentioned in the beginning, when you finger swatch these, they do come off very bold, but I'm not doing my whole eye look with my fingers. Building up shadows to really see the pigment is not something I'm used to with Urban Decay, and especially at their price point. But these colors are beautiful, and if you're willing to work with it a little bit, meet it halfway, then you can get some great looks out of it. But you came here to find out, is it worth the splurge? If you haven't come to your own conclusions after seeing the shadows in action, here's my final verdict. Even if you love purple eyeshadow and wear it constantly, I would really only recommend this palette if you could get it on sale. The Naked palettes are often included in the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale. The Naked Reloaded was just in the spring sale. So at 50% off, I'd say, yeah, go for it, especially if you love purple shadow. But I don't think it's worth the $49 because of the fact that you are still limited to mostly light to mid-tone shades. Particularly if your skin tone is any darker than I am and you do like to have those deep shades for definition. I mean, we made Digital work, but just barely. Now let's talk about some eyeshadow palettes you can check out if you like the vibe of Naked Ultraviolet, but you don't want to spend the money. $120. I don't own any of these eyeshadow palettes, but I'm recommending them based on their shade range. The first one being the Revolution Pro Focus Palette Rock and Royal. So this palette is predominantly purple, but there are some neutrals like bronzes and champagnes and taupes. So you will get sort of that balance that Ultraviolet has. This is a baked eyeshadow palette, and the description says that there's a mix of metallic, matte, and duochrome finishes. And this palette is only $9.99. My next recommendation to check out would be the Morphe Jewel Tone 9 Pan Eyeshadow Palette in Just a Crush. It's $12. Now this does have a little bit more of a pinky lean than purple, but if you look at these shades, a lot of them do look similar to ones you can find in Ultraviolet. Not saying they're dupes because I haven't swatched them, but I love the Morphe eyeshadow formula. They are so easy to work with, very pigmented, but again, a good balance between bold colors and neutrals. Now, if you are looking for something a little bit more focused on purple, check out the Juvia's Place The Violets eyeshadow palette. This is $14 and it's a 6-pan palette. What I love about this is that it does have a deep matte purple as well as a matte lavender like the one that we see in the Naked palette. There's one neutral shade which looks like a pinky champagne, but overall this is definitely for the purple lover. And my last recommendation to check out is the ColourPop All Things Equinox palette. Now again, this is a little bit more of a dusty purple vibe or a dusty mauve vibe. So this could be a good option if you want something just a tad more subtle. Plus the ColourPop eyeshadow formula is bomb. So I know it's a little bit of a mixed review because I love some of these shades so much. They are unique in my collection. I think it just slightly missed the mark at being a well-rounded palette. But I want to know, what do you all think? Are you going to go out and buy the Naked Ultraviolet palette right away? Are you gonna wait until it's on sale, or are you not interested at all? Let me know in the comments below. Today's shout out goes to Margarita. Thanks for being a member of the Slashed Squad, and join me over in this video next where I test out the highest rated magnetic lashes from Amazon. I'll see you over there. Bye!